Have you figured out that you suck at this game? You suck. Well, no longer, because I'm going to teach you the basics of Soul Calibur 6. And just so you know, if I sound a tad bit off my rocker. Oh, where was I? You just got the game. Good job. Now, I'm going to suppose you have some critical thinking skills and can figure out things like health gauges and whatnot. And just in case you are challenged in any sort of way, I'll let you know that standard matches are won by the first player to win 3 rounds. One thing to keep in mind is that the timer can actually pause during certain cinematic sequences you may encounter once in a while. Just once in a while. Okay. Now, before I move on, I need to mention that there is a mark notched on each player's health bar that indicates when each player has reached the last third of the remaining hit points. And at this point, the player's health bar will transform from a blue to a yellow, and the damage received by that character is reduced. The premise is that players have a better chance to come back from a large health deficit, and also players on the offensive trying to win the round have to consider making riskier attacks in order to complete the round. Now you see these little battle messages that pop up that you don't actually notice until you watch videos online? Well, if you don't notice them, then who cares, right? You're not supposed to notice them. They're just there if you're spectating or if you're trying to review a match. They really don't mean anything to a beginner, so I'm going to skip right over it. Now let's talk about the character's soul gauge. It's that little curvy bar. Well, this bar feels green as a character builds up their soul meter, which maxes out at 2 full bars of meter. The soul gauge counter is a number telling you if you have 0, 1, or 2 full bars of soul gauge. A character can fill their soul gauge by doing many things, really anything. I mean, you could just be standing there and you might be gaining soul gauge. I don't really care, because you could be attacking, you could be moving, you could be getting damaged, and you gain soul gauge. Okay, it really makes no difference how much soul gauge you're getting as a beginner. You're getting the soul gauge. Okay, you're getting soul, and you're gonna be really jazzy about it. Now, if you suspected that the soul gauge is a critical component of a SoulCalibur game, then you would be correct in that assumption. In SoulCalibur 6, you can spend your soul gauge in 2 important ways. 3 if you're an advanced critter and you know what the heck you're talking about in certain characters, but we're not going to go over that right now. In general, though, you could spend a full bar of soul gauge on one of 2 things: a soul charge or a critical attack. Sorry, a critical edge attack. Oh man, I almost goofed there. Now, a soul charge is activated by pressing back and all 3 attack buttons in combination simultaneously at the same time, is what I'm trying to say. And this will temporarily increase your character's abilities. It will increase your attack damage. It will allow you to chip away at the opponent's health, even if they're guarding. Okay, that's crazy, right? There are some moves that gain strong soul charge properties, like maybe an extra attack, or maybe just become stronger in general. Okay, you can even access hidden moves. Oh yeah, Crouching Tiger, hidden SoulCalibur. Okay, like Baldo has his Mantis Crawl, or Yoshi has a Super Dragonfly, but you only access those through Soul Charge. Okay, Soul Charge. One of the best things about Soul Charge that I haven't talked about is that it acts as a get off me tool if the opponent is threatening you up close. The activation animation will literally push opponents away, even while they're in mid-attack. Let's see the use of Soul Charge in action from this previous EVO tournament.
That extra meter and kind of demoralize the opponent there. Oh my gosh, in between Soul Charge. Get off me.
To wake up with it. That is unblockable if you charge it all the way.
Okay, so this is crazy. So once he's in this mode here, he has access to
Look at
way
his health.
more moves.
Look at his health ticking down. He's bleeding.
But he has on stock. He has the option to go for a big super. That's an unblockable. Gee.
Combo. He tech rolls.
Was that the full extension 1B to follow up?
Yeah, he's got a unique activation too, right? You can see his hair changes. Something.
Yeah. Oh, he goes with the teleport dash into the air.
I've never even seen. Yeah.
And the wall.
Oh, he wants wake up
to the
instead.
edge.
Activate.
Oh, missed. Oh! Soul Charge, never mind.
Get off me.
And he's partying. Look at
and
the chip
damage. Look at the life. Look at his health ticking down. Your days are numbered, amigo.
But you got to remember, you can't. Okay, that's big.
His life doesn't tick while he's being comboed.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, but it's ticking like crazy right now. You're dead. Oh, it stops at the end?
Oh, no, is it gonna hit? Oh, it's unblockable.
He's dead.
Definitely done.
Dead. She's dead.
And remember, that's unblockable.
That's huge damage. Nice. Oh, good throw break. Zephyr.
Oh my gosh. The Soul Charge to get
that
out
was brilliant.
That was a sick counter to the potential damage there.
That was brilliant. Oh,
double angel
and
step.
He got it.
That was clutch.
Wow.
What great decisions there from Zephyr.
Wow. That was clutch. Eyebrows are on fire right now.
Now a critical edge attack is activated by pressing all 3 attack buttons at once. No direction input necessary. All characters have access to their own unique critical edge attack that gives out massive amounts of damage. I'll get into all the specifics about each character's unique critical edge moves. However, that's for my advanced tutorials. You're not graduated yet, okay? Some characters can even have a special critical edge attack for when they are soul charged. But really, does it do any more damage? Maybe. I don't really know. Is that really important for you as a beginner? No, it's not. Okay, it's not. Keep in mind though that critical edge attacks are not guaranteed to land on the opponent if they successfully guard or evade it. So try to use them wisely. Oh, and one thing you should definitely keep in mind about that health gauge notch we talked about before. If you have your opponent in the yellow and you land a successful critical edge attack on them, it'll likely kill your opponent. Just keep that in mind. Thanks, Mark, man, for that tip. Now let's go over the basic combat system. A player can access everything the game has to offer by utilizing both the joystick and the 4 buttons assigned to the game, 3 of which are attack buttons, and the remaining 4th button is dedicated for guarding. This dedicated guard button can throw many of you new players off if you're used to some other fighting games mechanics where defense comes from holding the direction away from your opponent's character. That's not the case in SoulCalibur, you freaking scrub. With a little time and practice, it'll feel natural to you. Let's start with the 3 attack types in SoulCalibur. You have access to 3 dedicated attack buttons corresponding to horizontal attacks, vertical attacks, and kick attacks. Each attack type generally has certain advantages and disadvantages. Vertical attacks are considered the most powerful of the 3 attack types, but are slower, and sidestepping characters can easily evade most vertical attacks. Due to the power of many of these vertical attacks, they can launch or even knock down opponents. Okay? Moving on, you also have access to horizontal attacks. These attacks are useful for hitting opponents moving sideways and discouraging them from trying to evade your powerful vertical attacks. Look at the video! Horizontal attacks are sorta in between vertical and kick attacks in regards to speed and power. Kick attacks are the weakest attack, but are also generally the quickest. They are sometimes useful for poking and interrupting your opponent when they are being too aggressive. You just gotta slap them out of it with a freaking roundhouse kick, okay? Okay. Please keep in mind that these are very general rules and patterns, as there are many attacks that are exceptions to those rules. For example, there could be weak vertical attacks and strong kick attacks, and you can even have some vertical strike diagonally. Oh man, which might catch some sidestepping opponents stepping one way, but not the other. Advanced and professional players, not you, don't worry, will take note of all the properties of an attack to really gauge its usefulness, but more often than not, the 3 attack types probably follow those patterns I just laid out for you. Alright class, let's go over basic SoulCalibur notation. It's a lot easier to refer to vertical attacks as B attacks, horizontal attacks as A attacks, and to refer to kick attacks as K attacks. Okay? An easy memory device for you kids to learn is to think that B stands for vertical and A stands for horizontal. It makes total sense. Are there any questions? Teacher, now let's move on to the next lesson. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to talk about throw attacks. If you're right up against your opponent and can smell their awful breath, you can try grabbing them for a sizable amount of throw damage, and it looks pretty sweet. The type of throw depends on your position relative to your opponent, and some throws can even ring out opponents. To perform a throw requires either the A+G command or back A+G command. Most grapples can be broken by the defender during the grab animation prior to the throw. A+G throws are broken by pressing any attack button, and back A+G throws require defenders to hold the back direction while pressing any attack button. So if you're about to get molested by Sophia's milky white thighs, hold back on that joystick and mash away.
Forgive me.
Okay, all attacks are classified as either a high, mid, or low attack. The attack height property of an attack influences the defender's guard options, so let's cover how to guard attacks. One thing to keep in mind is that you cannot guard and move at the same time, nor can you guard and attack at the same time. That would be totally broken. Anyway, there are 2 ways to guard. Standing guard blocks highs and mids, but does not defend against low attacks. Standing guard is done by simply holding the guard button. Crouching guard blocks lows and evades high attacks, but you are susceptible to mid attacks. In order to crouch guard, you have to press and hold guard while pressing a downward direction.
Now that we talked about attacking and defending, or guarding, you want to know a little bit about when to attack and when to defend. This is called advantage and disadvantage. In general, a player has advantage after successfully blocking attack or after successfully damaging an opponent. You can even flip that on its head. A player has disadvantage after unsuccessfully damaging the opponent or after unsuccessfully guarding. If you understand and apply that to attack and defend at appropriate times, you will wipe out all the other scrubs who know no better because they weren't smart like you and watch General GG. It's just really difficult at the beginning because you have no idea what's going on, but don't worry, because your brain has this thing called a subconscious that when you watch and play the game, it'll eventually get used to the timings of a lot of the attacks, okay? So time and practice will make you not scrubby. Now let's talk about movement. SoulCalibur is a 3D fighting game, and it has what is termed an 8-way run movement system. This alludes to the 8 directions your character can move by simply pressing that direction on that joystick. Your character can move forwards, towards the opponent, backwards away from the opponent, to either side of your opponent, or anything in between. Holding a direction will cause your character to continue moving in that direction. Whoa, crazy. whereas a simple tap on the direction will move your character a single step. In general, you want to use your movement to help with evading, so let's talk about that a bit. For example, sure, you can guard a vertical attack, but even better would be to use a basic sidestep movement to dodge and then retaliate with your own vertical attack to punish that little loser before they have time to do anything. If a player is relentless with, say, horizontal sweeping low attacks, I hate those attacks, you can simply evade by jumping and punishing, again before they can do anything about it. You can always retaliate faster if you evade and force an opponent to win, rather than retaliate after you guard.
By the way, if you are crouch guarding and let go of guard, you will remain in a crouch state, but unguarded, okay? If you are standing guard, and press an upward direction, you will jump in that direction. But you will be moving, so therefore not guarding while you're in your jump animation.
Jumping is primarily used to evade low attacks and not so much for fast movement like other shitty games. Well, golly gosh darn it, I can't help but get launched and knocked down all the time. Well, in these states, you are susceptible to more damage, so learning how to follow up evade is crucial to your survival. When launched in the air, you are at risk of getting hit by follow-up attacks, and sometimes it can be unavoidable, so you'll have to suck it up, you pansy. But you can sometimes evade getting air juggled through aerial control. If your opponent is unprepared and doesn't know how to do a guaranteed combo, also known as a natural combo, after you've been launched in the air, you might be able to make your character magically float away from the opponent as if your character could use Jedi Force Push themselves a safe distance away from follow-up attacks. This can also be useful to avoid ring outs. When knocked down, you're in a vulnerable state. Experienced players refer to this interaction between an attacker and a disadvantaged down character as okizami. That's a fancy Japanese word for I have no idea. There are a few evasive wake-up actions that you, the down player, can take to try to avoid follow-up damage. Number 1, and the best option for beginners, is to simply hold the guard button to get up in a standing guard. If you think the attacker will wake you up with a low hit, you can get up into a crouching guard by holding down plus guard. The beauty of these two options is that the game doesn't require any animation to play out when getting up.
This is the only time in the game you could technically be considered moving and guarding at the same time.
You can try side rolling on the ground using the up and down movements to avoid vertical hits on the ground. Just remember that you automatically get up after the third roll. The last evasive wake-up option is to forward or backward roll to or away from your opponent. This is usually less favorable to simply guarding because the roll animation is vulnerable to attack. Ah! Well, I sure hope you gals and guys have made full use of my tutorial because I sure spent a lot of time on it. Be sure to watch this video about 1,000,000 times over so they're fully ingrained in your head, okay? SoulCalibur is really easy for new players to get into, but the game has surprising depth for the more experienced players to enjoy forever and ever and ever. Share and like the video and comment if you thought the information was helpful or you have any questions, because I'll probably ignore them.